You know me, I love and don't love talking about boundaries. So, boundaries are often what I feel is a throwaway term when it comes to narcissistic relationship. The sort of easy bloggy advice out there is, you have a toxic family member, or if you have someone in your life who's narcissistic or a problem in your life, you just need to set boundaries. Sure. Let me know how that works out for you. Drop that in the comments. Let me know how those boundaries with the narcissist worked. You have actually tried to set boundaries hundreds, maybe thousands of times in your narcissistic relationship. You may not have even known that what you were trying to do was setting boundaries. And clearly, if you are in a narcissistic relationship, it did not work. Boundaries, or talking about boundaries, is basically a way to double shame and harm people in narcissistic relationships. And the entire conversation about it can be a bit gaslighty too. You're in a dysfunctional relationship. Well, you know what you need to do? You just need to set boundaries. So not only are you being harmed by the relationship, you're being told it's on you, and you're being told to use a tool that will not work. And then when it doesn't work, you'll be told, like, well, you didn't set boundaries. Boundaries work great in healthy relationships because none of us are perfect. And whether you are setting boundaries with saying stuff like, I can't do that now, or I'd prefer not to talk about that, or in general, I don't take calls or texts after 9 p.m., a healthy person will hear that. They may not like it, but they may honor it because that's how a relationship moves forward. Narcissistic people do not listen to you unless it serves them to do so. So when you did try to set boundaries, they just didn't listen and then tell you later that you never told them this or that. And of course, boundaries are an inside job. The best you can do is to learn about this personality style, recognize that it will not change, see and observe the patterns, don't engage, and manage your expectations. I'm making it sound easy. I know it's not. So let's talk about a consistent boundary violation that happens in narcissistic relationships. For those of you with narcissistic parents or from narcissistic family systems of origin, it's been happening to you since childhood. For those of you who just joined this narcissism party in adulthood, it has happened in friendships, intimate relationships, even in the workplace. It's something we call intrusiveness. Let's start in childhood. The narcissistic parent is both in your life and out of your life, whatever works for them. They hover, then they disconnect. They're overly interested, and then they're disinterested. They heap praise on you, and then they heap criticism on you. When you have a narcissistic parent, everything is up for intrusion. Your body, what you eat, how you look, what you read, who you talk to, your friends, your thoughts, your interests. In narcissistic family systems, especially for the children, this is the case. Everyone is supposed to be an open book. And as children get older and have a natural desire to have some privacy, and frankly, honestly, we'd say boundaries, as they get ready to slowly separate from and individuate from the narcissistic parent. In essence, the narcissistic parent tells the child, well, you have no right to do that. You don't get to be your own person. We're family. Families are in each other's business. That they love you, and that's why they say and do these things and are intruding in every aspect of your life. What, you want to hear from a stranger you look terrible in that dress? And that confuses an already trauma-bonded situation further. I'm convinced that those old locked diaries, some of you had as a kid, some of you are old enough to know what I'm talking about, the little diaries that had a little key on them. I'm convinced that a long time ago, those locked diaries were developed by someone who had a narcissistic parent who intruded into their shit. So the concept of the boundary gets completely eroded in the narcissistic family system. The parent feels entitled to the child, as though the child is their possession and a form of supply that they basically made for themselves. So commenting on anything, saying anything, offering insensitive critiques, them offering insensitive critiques to you about things that are very personal for you. It's all open season. And this intrusiveness of the narcissistic parent doesn't end once you hit adulthood. It's the same ideology. We're family. We can say anything. That's real love. And they will intrude on your time, into your home, comment on your choices, but not in a friendly way, but in an intrusive, fix it and do it the way I say kind of way. Now, culturally, again, this can be tricky because these, being in everyone's business stuff, that might almost be culturally mandated. However, when the family system's healthier, people feel seen and loved, and while it can be a bit much to have people always up in your face, it also doesn't feel as though that the intrusiveness is about cutting you down to size to remain in the narcissistic parent's power, but rather telling you to eat a second helping when you're full is a love thing. And if you say no, they may roll their eyes good-naturedly rather than it being a rejection of them as a person, right? There's a difference. In healthy families where these sort of everyone's business is all of our business, when that idea is present, it can feel less personal. In narcissistic families, regardless of culture, where these everyone's business sort of situations are present, it feels controlling. It's subtle, and if you've lived it, you kind of know the difference. In adult relationships, people you date, friends you meet, folks you work with, this intrusiveness thing can keep showing up. In malignant, narcissistic, or coercively controlling relationships, it's not unusual that the narcissistic partner insists that their partner dress in a certain way, wear makeup, not wear makeup, dress up, dress down, cut their hair a certain way, eat at certain times. The intrusiveness can be very hypocritical. They may spy on you digitally or electronically, right? But if you ever ask to see their phone or comment on a DM they sent, all hell would break loose. Again, the intrusiveness is really about the entitlement and the fact that narcissistic relationships are just about power, domination, and control. Narcissistic people sort of feel that they have the right, the entitled right, to do, look at, comment on whatever they want. And it speaks to sort of the objectified nature of narcissistic relationships. We're basically like, again, objects, props, more than we are human beings, to be posed and do what the narcissistic person wants. In these relationships, we sort of exist in their service. And when we are not doing that, that's when the problems begin. There's also the sense that you don't have time or activities separate from them. And the ultimate intrusiveness may be into your time. You might be balancing 20 different things, but the narcissistic person will just show up for a cup of tea or call you at all times of day, including while you're at work, and then either call you uppity or arrogant or act hurt if you can't just magically give them an hour of your time because it works for them. Intrusive, narcissistic people may come into your house and take and move things around without your consent. They may rearrange your furniture. They may make inquiries on your behalf, speak on your behalf, tell you that you look fat in that, and you really don't appreciate the honesty, or tell you that you look gaunt and haggard in that. They will sneer at what you eat and tell you not to eat so much, eat differently, or eat more. They will tell you that your clothes make you look sleazy, or they will tell you that your clothes make you look like you're part of the Salem witch trials. They will tell you that you're exercising wrong, or that you don't exercise enough. And none of this intrusiveness is really ever good-natured. And they may even try to mock you afterwards if you protest at their intrusiveness, gaslighting, but they feel the right to say it. And more importantly, that you don't have a right to push back or say this doesn't feel okay, because then they'll say, well, this is how I show love. Intrusiveness can show up as unwanted advice. These are folks who may tell you very directive things that you are not ready for, that don't take empathy for your situation, and that lack any consideration of where you are at. Things like you're going through a tough patch in a relationship. Oh, just break up with her. Cancel the wedding. Don't go to your parents for Thanksgiving. Block your sister on social media. Forgive your mother. Oh, give him a second chance. Whatever it is, you don't want to hear it. And if you don't do exactly what they say, the intrusive folks will tell you that you're being a victim. They'll tell you that you like suffering and that you are the cause of your own misery. Because if you did exactly what they said, well, then of course everything will be fine. There's that delusional grandiosity again. Let me intrude on your life and tell you how to live your life, and then your life will be fine. Intrusiveness as a boundary violation is very much part and parcel of what happens in narcissistic relationships. It's a crossroads of low empathy, entitlement, grandiosity, I know everything, I know best, arrogance, and selfishness. All the narcissistic goodies all come out to play when it comes to intrusiveness. Listen, we all have that one friend who is willing to tell us whatever it is like it is. But that only works if we feel safe with that person, or that they can hear us kindly and respectfully when we say, okay, too soon, don't want to hear this. And we actually have to believe that they do have our best interests at heart. That's not what I'm talking about here. The narcissistic person only has their own best interests at heart and their conviction that they know what is best for everyone. They get to pull the strings of the puppet show. And that means that they just push themselves into your life and do what they want. Addressing this intrusiveness thing in a narcissistic relationship really only happens when we ourselves pull back and disengage and actually understand what this is. But if this intrusiveness stuff has been happening since we were in childhood, it doesn't feel good, and we almost sadly have to adjust to it. If, for example, we have struggled with weight issues, even at 40, when the parent comments or says something like, well, isn't that dress a little bit tight? It still takes you back to feeling like the chubby little kid. Or the parent saying, oh, I didn't know that clothes hanging off of you like a hanger were back in style, takes you back to being the self-conscious, gangly kid. There's no world where we can say, don't say that, please, that hurts me. If you do that, they really don't care. The narcissistic person will laugh, roll their eyes, or just tell you that you're the one who's too sensitive. Being vulnerable in these relationships is completely disincentivized. There's no world in these relationships where you can say, please don't do that. Cue their eye rolls and all the rest of it. If you step away when they're behaving like this, once again, you're the one who's being too sensitive. Or better yet, if you don't cave into their intrusiveness thing, it is you not wanting to be better, or, as they often like to say, you're just too scared to hear the truth. Many a person has said as they go, for example, to a family wedding in a narcissistic family system, heaven help me, I'm about to be deconstructed by my family. Listen, I've talked about narcissism bingo on this channel before, where you make a list ahead of time of all the intrusive, icky, terrible things you know they're going to say. And once you hit a certain number of them, things that they do, like 5 or something like that, either laugh, leave, or give yourself a prize. Do something to commemorate that this is very unpleasant. And on cue, they'll say, oh, that dress. Or they're tugging at your dress, or the, oh, aren't you trying too hard at your cousin's wedding comments? Whatever it may be, you know it's going to happen. Well, in the best of scenarios, you may even chuckle about it. And you may not, because you can also see how all of this accumulated intrusiveness has hurt you over the course of your life and made the idea of even setting boundaries or thinking about boundaries, even in your healthy relationships, a really fraught space. Intrusiveness is a terrible boundary violation because you can almost feel it viscerally and physically. It's like they're sticking a knife under your skin, opening your cabinets, rifling into spaces they should not be in, but feel a right to. It feels like we lose our sovereignty, and the intrusiveness really contributes to this loss of individuation, of getting to be a separate human being that is such a part of narcissistic relationships. To be loved in a narcissistic relationship, the message is, you do not get to be separate from me, and I can do whatever I want, or can do or say whatever I want. And if you push back on them, then you're wrong. That's sort of the unspoken code of the narcissistic relationship, if it's to keep going. Listen, if you're watching this and you have any examples of intrusiveness that have happened to you and you've gotten this far in the video, please drop them in the comments. And frankly, healing may just be that moment when you wear that dress because you like it and you don't care what they think, or you put the sofa where you want it because it works for you, or you wear your hair the way you want it, or you have 3 scoops of the pistachio ice cream just because, or you put the blue streaks in your hair because it's fun, and you just go poker face when they intrude, and then you just shrug and you disengage. Listen, it still hurts because narcissistic intrusiveness can be a weapon. It's a way to control you. And when you try to disengage, they may employ it more. But ultimately, knowing that this intrusiveness is part of these relationships and that it's coming, that it's about them, not you, and recognizing that all of us not only are allowed, but need private spaces and preferences and parts of ourselves that are only known to ourselves, that may be the only boundary you can set. Just don't tell that intrusive narcissistic person that you're doing it. Thanks again.